This project is based on a photograph, but doesn't attempt to be a realistic recreation of it. Instead, it shows how foliage, shrubby undergrowth and grass, subjects that often appear difficult, can be simplified to create an attractive and realistic interpretation of the original image. Don't worry about the seemingly complicated trees. Initially, just draw the main outline of the foliage, then use a combination of washes and brushwork to give them form. The painting uses wet on wet and wet on dry techniques and shows you how to build up layers of colour to create light and shade. A combination of brushes will help you create the delicate branches and mysterious outlines of the trees that form a cluster at the heart of the painting. Working from your photograph and using a 2B pencil on a sheet of stretched not watercolour paper, create a light outline drawing. There's no need to add in detail, just a simple outline of the main areas of the image, the trees and the horizon line, marking the division between the grass in the foreground, the field and the sky. Mix plenty of washy sky colour from water, cerulean and cobalt blue. Test the colour on a piece of spare paper to make sure it's not too dark or too pale. Wet the cloud shapes with clean water, then wash in the sky with the mop brush, rolling the brush to produce irregular marks. Paint around the wet clouds, but allow the colour to touch and run into the damp areas. Take the sky over the drawn outline of the trees. Mix brown for the trees from raw umber with touches of burnt umber and ivory black. Paint the trees with the rigger brush, using bold strokes for the main trunks and finer strokes for the smaller branches. Change to the number 8 brush and wash in the foreground, using the same brown mixture, leaving a few flecks of unpainted paper. Mix yellow ochre and raw sienna with lots of water and use the number 5 brush to paint the distant field on the left of the composition. Mix a darker green from sap green and ivory black and add dark shadows to the wet trees, painting around the trunks. Let the colours run and merge together. Mix yellow ochre and raw umber and use the rigger to paint the long foreground grass in vertical strokes. Add burnt umber to the mixture and continue with the grasses. Change to the number 8 brush and use this to block in the larger grassy areas. Change to the fan brush and use this to paint the shrubby texture in the foreground. Introduce sap green into the mixture and flood this bright grassy colour into the foreground using loose brush strokes to get a nice spontaneous effect. Add dioxazine purple and burnt umber to the dark mixture and strengthen all the shadows under the trees using the rigger brush. With the rigger brush, start to dot in the foliage on the trees, working from left to right so as not to smudge the wet colour as you paint. Apply the paint in rapid dots and dashes, joining the strokes to get the effect of leaves and branches. Leave patches of sky showing through between the leaves. Vary the density of the dots to get a natural appearance. For the larger tree in the centre of the painting, change to the fan brush. The splayed bristles enable you to work more quickly, painting a whole branch with one short downward stroke of colour. Use the bright green tree colour and the fan brush to paint some vivid grasses in the foreground. Mix 2 washes. The first is a very dark green mixed from ivory black and sap green. The second is a very dark brown from burnt umber and dioxidine purple. Dip the brush into the dark green and dab the darkest shadows into the tree foliage. Don't overdo these, you need just enough to give depth to the foliage. Alternate between the fan and the rigger to suggest leaves and branches. Leave some of the distant trees without any shadow at all. Use the second wash, the dark brown, to paint the tree trunks, allowing the dark green and dark brown to run together where the two colours meet.